Welcome to the Mindful Mama Movement podcast. I'm Shannon Kinney-Dew, creator of afreespiritlife.com.
And I'm Ashley Walburn, owner of Home Holistic. And together, we are bringing you the Mindful Mama Movement,
the podcast, community, and retreats for women in all stages of motherhood. Mindful mothering is about nurturing your heart and soul while you nurture your children. It's about consciously awakening to your inner wisdom and being peacefully present as a mama, no matter where you are on your journey. From discovering your newborn to loving and accepting the wonderful people who've left your nest.
The Mindful Mama Movement is bringing women together from across the world to celebrate the imperfect journey of motherhood.
Our movement is empowering mamas to be authentic and to live inspired lives. We are so happy you're here. This is the Mindful Mama Movement podcast, episode number 6. In today's show, you're going to meet Carla Reeves. Carla is a life coach who specializes in mindset shift. She really is inspired to spread goodness and love to those who are ready to awaken to the fullest version of their own lives. She talks today about how important it is to find what fuels you outside of motherhood. She talks about her passion for enriching partnerships in her marriage, and she is really inspired to help women create a mission statement for being a mom, but also just creating a vision for your life. I know after you hear this interview, you are going to feel uplifted and inspired. And join the Mindful Mama movement on Facebook. We have a private group where we're always following up on discussions. Carla's going to join us there, and we'll talk more about creating our own mission statement. And she has a giveaway at the very end of this interview, so stick around for that. And thanks to all of you who've been leaving us ratings and reviews. You are helping us spread the word about our movement. Please continue to go to iTunes and leave us a rating, leave us a review. We so appreciate your help in connecting with women from across the world. And you can subscribe to our podcast also. So enjoy the interview, and we will see you on Facebook. Hi, Carla. Welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here with you ladies.
Well, we are happy you are here too. We're just excited to introduce you to our community. I think Ashley's going to take it away with our first question.
Well, welcome, Carla. Our first question is just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what stage of motherhood you are in.
Okay, so who am I? I'm a lover of life. I feel like I am here on this planet with a mission to be a force of good. And I feel like since the time I was a little girl, I've felt it my mission to just like remove stress and chaos and upset and elevate happiness in the room. And that's kind of what I do today. In thinking about this question, I kind of made that connection back to being a little girl. And that's my mission. I love being a mom. I feel it's an absolute privilege and honor to be a mom. I feel like it's one of the greatest gifts of my lifetime. And this doesn't mean I don't have moments that my head feels like it's going to pop off. I have those every day. I have 2 boys who are 14 and 12. We live in Arizona. We live not your typical Arizona living. We live on acreage. So we have cows and horses in our backyard and chickens, and been a really amazing space to raise boys. And I'm married. I've been married for over 15 years. This is a second marriage for me. And I really feel also a part of my mission is really carving out a different space for marriage and what that looks like, and really learning to thrive in that. What stage of motherhood? I am in the teenage stage, and it really feels like a time of letting go and hanging on. Like it's, and really treasuring like the time that we have, because not for the first time, but I acutely feel this awareness of how fleeting this time is with our children in our home. And for so long when they were young, it just feels like life is going to be like this forever. And you're trying to survive the daily demands. And it just kind of feels like this is how life is going to be. And my son reached high school this year, and it's just been kind of just really looking back going, wow, the last 10 years have gone by in a blip. And so soaking up the moments for sure. And should I tell you a little bit about my entrepreneurial life? Do you want to hear? Yeah,
we do.
Okay, so I've been an entrepreneur since about 2002 when I left corporate America to have my first son. Not really knowing whether I was going to go back or not, but it became really, really clear after having him and having an opportunity to choose to be at home. I chose to do that. And shortly after he was about 8 months old, I kind of started feeling that desire, that calling, that need to kind of take care of myself and find something that was going to fuel me outside of motherhood. So that's what I do today. I coach highly driven men and women who are passionate and want more from life, and really help them remove thinking barriers that keep them stuck or not living their biggest and brightest life that they know is available to them.
It's amazing. It's amazing. What does family life look like to you now that you are working more as an entrepreneur and like school and activities, family time, and working?
Yeah, so it's gotten easier for sure. My boys are at a stage where they're independent and capable. And so my carving out my workspace at home and time has gotten much, much easier over the years. And I've tried a zillion different things over the years to make sure it can all fit in. It's really a hodgepodge, our life. My husband has a very crazy schedule that changes just about every week. So we don't have a lot of regularity with that. And honestly, throughout all of this motherhood, it's kind of been that way. So we've gotten really good about creating what works. And I think that's really guided us in so many ways. And we have our eyes always on kind of helping each of us to thrive individually and as a whole, and keeping our eyes on kind of those bigger components of, or bigger vision of staying connected and close as a family. And I feel like when we have our eyes on that, it helps us navigate how each day is going to look, so that we make time and space for those things that are going to make us feel close and connected. And it looks different on any given day. I mean, we try to sit down as a family for dinner together, but a lot of times my husband works till 9:30. So we really are very, very creative in every, kind of in the everyday, keeping our eye on what's really, really important. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Beautiful. It's kind of like setting a family mission statement, in essence, that you guys check in with daily is what it makes me think of. Keeps you guided.
It's kind of always there, and it really helps guide our decisions and our choices, right? And it's really kind of just staying in tune with the vibe. Like, you can feel when it gets too far out of alignment, or we haven't had any quality time together as a family. And so we make those adjustments as we need to. And I mean, it's pretty, my boys go to a 4-day school week. They're both in sports throughout the year, but we don't try to do too much. We don't overschedule ourselves, and we don't try to do a zillion things. We really feel like less is more. And And that hasn't always been easy to stand in that, because you can look around and feel the push or pull of maybe they should be doing more sports or getting more opportunities or experiencing more things. And we have to keep bringing ourselves back to what's really, really important for us as a family. And less is more has been a good place to stand for us.
That's beautiful. You know, one thing that you mentioned in your intro that kind of struck me, and I know that it's really important. We did a survey in our community of moms, and the very top most important thing that people are interested in and that they're struggling with is the connection to their spouse or their relationship, their partnership, and kind of reshaping that, you know, after you have children. And I think it's something that people don't feel comfortable talking about a lot of times. And so I'm curious, when you brought that up, you know, how you focus on enriching your marriage. Do you have some tips, things that you've learned through this process that you could share with others who are struggling in that area?
Yes. So, you know, having gone through a divorce, you know, and then re-entering into marriage, this was something that was really, really important to me. And when my husband and I met, we really, again, kind of created a vision for what we wanted to have as a marriage. And we really sort of set the bar high. Like we really want to have an extraordinary marriage. We didn't know what that meant or really looked like. But what we knew is that what we looked around at was like marriages like surviving and often quite miserable. And we knew what we didn't want. And so that's always been in front of us all the way through. And even those hard times when your babies are so demanding of you, we always have carved out something for our marriage and made that a priority, whether it was like a 9:00 date for a half hour. And so have we executed it perfectly? Absolutely not. But what I will say is just knowing that that is an absolute priority. And when our marriage is working, our home is just working better. And my work is working, like everything works better when that core unit in your home is in place and connected.
That's really great.
It's really great. It's really great.
And then something else you said that you talked about how you became an entrepreneur and how you really felt that desire to find something that fueled you outside of motherhood. And I'm curious, even in your own work with moms or just kind of your own thoughts on, because what we find too is that there's so many, you kind of get, especially during those younger years, I think a lot of times we get lost in motherhood. And I think some of us think that that's all we should be doing, or that's all we should be giving, or that if we want to pursue something outside of that, you know, that mama guilt can mess with us. And so I'm just curious, do you find that that is an important tool or aspect in motherhood, to have something that inspires you outside of the title mom?
I do. And I'll tell you that it really came from a lack of that is how I discovered that. And so in getting so absorbed in being a mom, I mean, it was what I wanted to do since I was a baby. I mean, like a very, very young little girl playing dolls, right? And so I did get so absorbed in it initially and kind of found myself in that space of being lost. And who am I outside of being a mom? And I, again, similar to the marriage thing, I looked around at moms around me and saw them like surviving and kind of miserable and blaming their children for their misery. And I just saw a lot of that around me. And I knew I didn't want that, but I didn't really have a model of what I did want. But I felt this calling to write. And I actually started journaling at that time to figure out how to be a happy mom, because I felt like if I could be a happy mom, that would be one of the greatest gifts I could give my children. And so that became my mission. And out of that, kind of figuring out, like declaring, I want to be a happy mom. And it's up to me to be a happy mom. It's not up to my circumstances or environment or kids or what's happening. Like I have to create that for myself. And so I started doing that by just journaling. And at the end of kind of a commitment to journal for a period of time is when I discovered like what actually occurred in my journal and what opened up and what kind of transpired in that work, that I just felt like this calling to teach women and people how to use journaling as a tool to navigate their life and really get to that core inside of who they are and let that sort of lead their life and what's next. And so that is what sort of ignited this idea of entrepreneurship and teaching women to journal. So that was my first entrepreneurial endeavor, was creating that business. So I do feel it's important. And does it have to be a business? No, I think it can be anything, but just really taking responsibility for what fuels you, what gives you energy, right? Like we have so many energy taking activities that we do as a mom. You've got to have some energy giving activities. And so figuring out what are those and making sure that you carve out space for them.
So what did you find out in that journaling activity about yourself? And like, if you had a day with no kids and no work, what would you do?
Gosh, so what did I find out about myself? I think I just got back in touch with the sort of purest part of myself. Journaling, I feel, is a way to kind of, over time, kind of strip away some of the pretenses and the, wanting to look and say, I went through so many different stages in my journal of it, wanting it to sound a certain way and look a certain way, and then trying to get to something deeper and richer. And eventually that did happen. And I think when we get to that purest part of ourselves, there's guidance there, there's wisdom there, there's nothing not to love when you access that part. So it opened up all kinds of things for me. It opened up, just figuring out how to take care of myself on a daily basis and taking 10 minutes to journal when I feel like my head's going to pop off, so that I can shift the energy for my kids, because my kids would feed off that. I mean, they would reflect a lot of the energy inside. So it became a space to take care of that. I discovered my creativity. I discovered this, entrepreneurial path I wanted to go on. I mean, it literally opened up so many different places. And then kind of shifting. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. And so, it sounds like you learned that about yourself. And what would Carla do on a day where if you were gifted that entire day to yourself, and this about you, how would you recharge on that Carla day?
Yeah. So for me, I don't typically take a recharging, day. What I try to do is recharge continuously, throughout the week. For me, I used to go, crash, go, crash, and then sort of need that extended self-care time. And I've learned over the years to really kind of blend that into my life. So with that question, I would, my work, my passion really is my fuel. And so that day would be filled with yoga or exercise, coffee in the morning, some journaling and some writing and maybe some reading, and probably creating and designing. That's what fuels me.
That's beautiful. Well, I know that a lot of your work as a coach is mindset related. And I'm curious if you could just share a little bit more about what that means, the blocks that we create in our own mind, how you help people move beyond those. And I'm thinking in particular, our mothers who we were talking about, we tend to put our needs last, or we do go, and then crash. And is there a mindset shift that has to happen in order for you to kind of value your own needs as a mom? Can you just kind of tie that all together and help us learn a little bit more about that?
Sure. So when people come to me for coaching, there's usually something that they want. And a lot of times that may show up as in, a new career or a different relationship or like that. And really what I want to get to is deeper than that. And really, because there's usually a deeper desire, so what I'll ask them is, if you had that, what would you feel today what would you feel more of today that you don't feel? And typically then you can get to, it's either like freedom or connection or really feeling loved or valued or feeling like they're a contribution, and on and on and on. And what happens is something is preventing them from feeling that on a consistent basis. And so instead of changing the circumstances to try to get the feeling, I really help people get to removing the barrier that allows them to feel that sort of at the foundational level, because then no matter where they go or what they do, it's not relying on the external circumstance. It's something that's created at the very foundation. And so what I see is that they think they're doing all the right things and moving closer to that. But as we start to examine their thinking and their beliefs and their actions, what we'll find is that those things are often in contradiction to what they deeply want. And it's like a blind spot. And so my job is to help them really see that. And what I see is that they're stuck inside of an old thinking model. And at one time, that model like helped them survive life. But the problem is that today they want to do more than survive. And so I help them to really see what that old thinking model is. It's kind of like an old shirt that doesn't fit anymore, but you kind of forgot how to take it off. And so I really teach them to, one, just to see it and understand it. And then once we do that, they have power to really start to choose to operate in a different thinking model that gives them access to new and different experiences and results. And so, so then as far as moms, yes, our mindset plays a huge role. And there's so many different places that you can shift your mindset as a mom, but I'll just give you a couple examples. But a lot of times it can simply be focus, right? We can get so focused on what's wrong, or even just an idea like, I never have time for myself. Like if you just sit in that thought for too long, you can start to feel the energy, right? The anxiety and the frustration and anger and resentment. And if you're repeating that over and over and over again, how does that impact your energy, your actions, your words, like all your exchanges with other people and your children? And so one is just starting to be responsible for looking at, what are we, perpetually thinking in our head? And is it in alignment with what we want to create, how we want to feel? And just start to pay attention. And then, out of being more aware, you have choice, right?
Right.
And then another example would be, and you kind of touched on this, is, boxing ourselves into an idea that we're supposed to be or should be this certain kind of mom, that motherhood looks like this because of what we've seen or what was modeled to us. We, without realizing it, have boxed ourselves into like having to fit into this certain motherhood shape. And when we're really inside there kind of kicking and screaming and trying to contort and fit and wondering why we're not fulfilled. And instead of kind of pausing and stepping back and really looking at like, what kind of mom am I? Like what inspires me? And kind of, ditching some of the rules to really give ourselves space to grow and expand into the mom that we're to be.
I love it. It really, we have a lot of moms that reach out to Shannon and I that say very, very similar things to what you're saying. Like, I'll put the kids down for a nap and I have plans to journal, or I have plans to do a yoga DVD. But all of a sudden, the kids are up from their nap and all I did was laundry or, housework or whatever. And that I missed that, opportunity for self-care. And then comes, mama guilt. Like if I'm not doing the housework and I'm not doing the child care and coloring with the kids or, whatever it is that needs to get done today, that I feel so bad about it. And so can we talk a little bit about just what you think about mama guilt and mindset, and replaying the day in our head and how that feels at the end of the day, what we could have handled differently, things that we didn't get done. And then just if you have any tips and tricks of how to soften the anxiety for the guilt-ridden thoughts.
Yeah, because I think the word anxiety, Carla, is what I hear quite often. The overwhelming feelings, or the lack of sleep. But just in this e-course we've been offering, I was kind of surprised actually at how many can relate to just that word in particular of having anxiety kind of rule their life. And so can you share with us some of your tools on how to soften that?
Yes. So one, anxiety, my belief is sort of anxiety is a outcome or an impact of your thinking, right? Like if we think about, sometimes you'll have just a physical something that happens that creates anxiety, but oftentimes we might feel perfectly great in the morning, and then a half hour later you feel anxiety. And what has happened? Nothing but your thinking, right? So one is just, again, coming back to, your thinking and paying attention, being responsible for that. And then next, as far as, and learning to be gentle on ourselves. And I think that's a journey, at least it has been for me, is really giving ourselves permission to learn to sort of be in friendship with ourselves and being our own champion. Like how you said, Ashley, like to your son when we were first talking, like, I'm on your team. Like being on your own team and learning to be gentle with yourself and champion yourself and support yourself, and has been, I think, is a journey that is an important one and can definitely soften the anxiety. And as far as kind of guilt, and I think this ties into anxiety too, but I just recently worked with a mom who was feeling just incredible guilt, right? She has a business that she is desiring to create. But if she's in the business, she feels guilty that she's not with her kids. And if she's with her kids, she feels guilty that she's not working on her business. And it's this constant weight that she carried and prevents her from enjoying her work and her home. And it can feel like you have no power. But the good news is that you do. And one is your mindset and your thinking, and those things are things you can control or are your responsibility. With practice, you can get better at that. But two, my work with her was we just kind of explored the guilt and put a big bright light on it to say, what is this about? Like, are you really not spending enough time with your children? Are you really not there for your children? Are you really not doing the actions that make you feel like a good mom? And when I asked her those questions, she's like, no, like, I'm so there for my kids. I'm so there for my kids. And so we really looked at, like, where's the nonsense in it, right? Where's the nonsense in what you're telling yourself? And where's the nonsense in the guilt? And then also looking at, sometimes guilt can be a great messenger to say, you know what, I'm just craving some quality time with my kids and taking responsibility to create that, right? And that can be, 10 minutes laying on their bed, just listening to their day or playing a game together. It doesn't have to be like this, extensive week we need together. It can be a blip of a moment of quality that just fills you up, right? And also fills your children up too. But it's like taking responsibility for what that is and then taking action around it, either letting it go if it's nonsense guilt. We'll call it nonsense guilt, right? Or if it's really good. Like your messenger to say, hey, you need to carve out some time, like you're missing your kids.
Yeah, I love it. It makes me just feel like the word is almost like a new 21st century kind of catchphrase. Like, I've got so much mom guilt. I work. I've got so much mom guilt. I, have too much XYZ going on. That if we do, like, it's not the truth generally, just like you said, it's a little bit of nonsense. And that if we shifted the word just to a more positive, like my mom needs, like I need some more quality time, or I need to feel more connected to my kids, is maybe more of what the mom guilt is sometimes. I think is what our needs are more than what our kids' needs are.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so
And
true.
also being mindful, right? Like kind of trusting your own intuition. Like, because sometimes you can feel when your kids are like kind of screaming, like, I need you. Right. And just stopping to just fill their tank, in those moments, because ultimately that's going to fill all the things that we're up to as mom. It's going to fill you, and it's going to fill your need to be a good mom, and like all of that. And it fills their tank.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's so good.
Well, I think you've kind of touched on this, but I love the phrase. I love all your phrasing, Carla, by the way. Just the way you speak, I just want to like listen to you all the time. Because, guilt is a messenger, being friends with ourselves, being on your own team. I just think those are really phrases that stick, that have a lot of
They're like
richness.
affirmations, mom affirmations.
Yes. And so one thing I noticed on your website, another phrase that I love, is that you say that you help people break through to a fuller version of themselves. And so I think you've touched on that already, but what do you think that means, or how do we know how to look for that in our own self? What is becoming a fuller version of ourselves mean to you?
Yeah, so what it means to me is a lot of times people feel like they need to be better or different, and sometimes they come into coaching kind of feeling that way. And really my belief in my role as a coach is to, I feel like that full version of you and me is already there. It's already in there. It's just gotten buried over time by life stuff. And my job is to help you sort of tap on it and kind of crack open and let the pieces fall away that are keeping you from being that purest version of you. And so that's what it means to me. And as we pull away some of this armor and rules and how things should be and how I should be, and these kind of skewed ideas that we have about ourselves and who we are, often those are quite negative. And as we start to pull those things away is when people get to move more freely and tap into the pieces that are just naturally who they are. And I feel like when people get access to that again, how they lead their lives and the clarity that they're looking for, it all is right there and becomes so much clearer as we pull away like all that dust. If you think about like a stained glass window, it's like my job is to get in there with my client and really like it's gotten all dusty and you can't even see the colors anymore. And it's to like really clean it all up, clean up all these spaces so you can really see clearly again and see who you are and really trust that and let that core lead your life. And I feel that,
like,
yeah.
well, I was just going to say it's like clearing mental clutter. It's like you're just kind of helping declutter those thoughts.
There's so much noise up there that keeps us from the things that we really, really want. And you can apply the same kind of thinking to marriage. And it would be fun to talk more about marriage sometime. But marriage is kind of the same way, that there was like that beautiful stained glass window when you met and fell in love. And over time, all this stuff builds up, misunderstandings and miscommunications, and eventually you can't really see. And I believe that it's our job as a couple to ongoingly keep that clean. And then there's space to kind of fall in love over and over and over again.
I think so too. I feel the exact same way. I feel the exact same way that sometimes I notice myself like kind of feeling messy in my marriage, or feeling like we've just been kind of on autopilot, like we've been busy. And I know that I just want to be reminded of why I like him so much. And so right now I'm in one of those periods. Like we just need like a really like long morning together by ourselves, and not talk about work, and not, necessarily talk just about kids, but just to laugh and have fun together, because then we're so much better at the busy parts of life.
Yeah, everything works better. Yeah.
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 So, Carla, is there any sort of self-care ritual that you try not to miss each day? Is there something that really stands out for you that if you just did that one thing, it sets you up for the day?
I do. It's really just a morning ritual. And I get up and I pray and I journal and I create my day. And that has an amazing impact. And when I don't do it, I absolutely feel it.
How long does it take you?
I give myself an hour. So I wake up like an hour before the house wakes up. And it just allows me to get my footing before I'm ready to, sort of help everybody else create their day too, and get out the door and so where we need to be and all that.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, we want to wrap up. I really do think we're going to have you back, and we'll just focus on relationships.
Right. And then we'll do a kid one, a boy one.
Yes, for sure.
That would be so
we could
fun.
talk for hours. But just a last thing. I'd like to know, what does being a mindful mama mean to you?
I love that question. And in thinking about it, I think for me, it means living committed to not only my children, right, and raising my children and being a mother, but to my own thriving and well-being, because I know that it's when I do that I can be the mom I'm here to be and do the work in the world that I know I'm here to do. And it's about being aware and conscious in my choices, and really model and kind to myself, and modeling that for my children. So I think as moms, like our greatest impact is often in our modeling. It's like we want these things for our kids and often speak these things of what we want and what they should do and all of that. But I think the loudest message that we give is really what we're modeling. And I think that also plays into the guilt and feeling selfish for doing these things that we know are good for us, that fuel us, is to remember that you're modeling that for your children so that they can know how to do that for themselves in life.
Right. Yeah, it's giving them permission to put themselves
as a priority.
As a priority and as a necessity.
Well, I noticed that my shift in my own self, Carla, with my work, because I got kind of in that period of where I felt like I even had to hide my computer. It was, if I was going to do my work, I had to kind of do it in hiding a little bit. And really, that's the shift that really helped me, was to see that when my children see me doing something that I'm so passionate about and that I love, that's actually a better message than trying to give them every ounce of my attention. And so that has helped me be able to shed that guilt and move beyond that, because I see that really they're now seeing, and it kind of, we feed off each other. If I'm doing something I enjoy, I see that they're happier and doing what they enjoy too, just simply because I'm happier.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I can so relate to feeling like you need to hide the computer. I love that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So true.
Go ahead.
Oh,
At the end of each show, we end with a mindful mama moment, and just something for moms to take away from this particular show. Do you have a particular offering or message that you would like to leave for the mamas?
Yeah. So two things. One, I would say, write down your mission as a mom. You can do it for your marriage too, and for other things, but writing down your mission for a mom, and not feeling like you have to have it all figured out or what that's going to look like. But, for me, it was like kind of that guidepost was happy mom, being a happy mom. But whatever it is for you, write down that question in your journal, and you may have to write it multiple times, and really just ask and be ready and expectant for the answers to show up, to really guide you, and keeping that in front of you day after day after day will guide your actions and your choices throughout your day. And so that's my little tidbit. And then I do have an offer for anyone who is interested in exploring with me where your thinking may be tripping you up a little bit in motherhood or marriage or something like that. I am offering a 30-minute call where we can really zoom in on something important to you, and I'll help you see where your thinking may be playing a role and give you some new perspectives. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up for that on my website at carlareeves.com. And on the homepage at the very bottom, there's a button that says Let's Talk, and that will link you right to my schedule where you can pick a time, and I'll reach out to you from there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And we will share your link in the show notes so people can check in with you that way, follow up, want to work with you. Thank you for that offering, Carla. Thank you for this interview. And also, Carla has offered to join our Facebook group on Facebook, the Mindful Mama Movement group. And we're going to share this week our mission as mom, what we're defining as our own mission. And Carla's going to be there to kind of help guide us and answer questions. And we'll just have a nice discussion on how we discover what our mission is as mom and share with each other. Does that sound good, Carla?
That sounds great.
Great.
Thank you so much, Carla. This was so fun.
This was so fun. And I love what you guys are up to. I think this is so important. So happy and honored to be here.
Thank you. Yeah. We appreciate you so much. Take care.
You too.